On this episode of China Uncensored, China is building a new aircraft carrier. Or three. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. You know, I am so sick of all these cool, level-headed approaches to China's military rise.
It is in our interest for China to continue what has been dubbed a peaceful, orderly rise.
Come on, Obama. America needs a leader who can speak with passion.
China!
Much better. Now, let me add to that. You see this? That's China building its first homemade aircraft carrier, called the Type 001A. And according to Hong Kong's Ming Pao newspaper, it will be launched by the end of December. Dreaming of a white Christmas? Good, because it's going to be a nuclear winter. Just kidding. China wouldn't launch nukes from an aircraft carrier. They have hypersonic missiles for that. So what's the value for China of having this aircraft carrier, and the possibly two more they plan to build? You see, by using aircraft carriers as mobile battle stations, China would be able to project its military might anywhere in the world that has a coastline. And last I checked, there's a lot of coastline in Southeast Asia. As a prominent general in the PLA said, all of the great nations in the world own aircraft carriers. They are symbols of a great nation. And China is a great nation. Now, maybe you didn't take the Chinese military seriously when they came out with plans for a spider tank, or a giant orbital space laser, or 2-mile-long floating islands. But just because China's only current aircraft carrier is a refurbished Soviet model that doesn't work half the time, and just because China can't build engines powerful enough to accelerate airplanes so they can actually launch off the deck, doesn't mean this new aircraft carrier won't be the most terrifying thing ever. And that's because China has a secret weapon: stolen US military technology. Why design your own aircraft carrier when you can just steal blueprints from the country that's been making them since your grandfather was wearing diapers? And what makes US aircraft carriers even more special, besides the fact that the US Navy has more of them than the rest of the world combined, is the recently developed Electromagnetic aircraft launch system. It basically catapults an aircraft into flight. Actually, it looks more like this. The Catapult Launch system allows planes to use less fuel for takeoff, meaning they have more space to carry weapons. No other country on Earth uses it. What's that, Shelley? France does? Well, something about that just seems so fundamentally un-American. But anyway, this is something China could really use. Most other aircraft carriers in the world, including China's sometimes functioning Liaoning, uses this silly-looking ski jump ramp at the end. Though it does give the aircraft a slight lift, it still relies on its own propulsion. The problem is, as I've said, China doesn't know how to build jet engines strong enough to get their aircraft airborne on this thing. The Chinese J-15 Flying Shark fighter has to use a Russian-built engine to get off the ground. That's why Chinese jets are always known for rushing around. And even still, its range is limited, so is the amount of fuel and weaponry it can carry. And that's why, according to satellite photos, China is building its own electromagnetic launch system. Now before you say, oh, well, stolen technology isn't all that impressive, just remember, one of the greatest military maneuvers in human history involves stolen technology. Peace! So what do you think about the new Made in China, Designed in America aircraft carrier? Leave your comments below and subscribe to China Uncensored for more. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time. Check out this episode of Seeker Daily, how China is making sure Americans have all the deadly, illegal drugs they need.
A new and highly dangerous drug is currently finding its way into the US from China.
China is generating new millionaires faster than any other country. And that's why the world's rich are all moving to China. Wait, what's that, Shelley? The rich Chinese are leaving China?